want to know my occupation? I get paid to rock the nation. Roland.
Hold it now.
Tuesday morning. Good morning, Roland Martin.
Good morning, Tom, Sybil, and Jay.
Mr.
Coming
Martin.
live from New York City.
New York City.
New York City. That's right. Great time last night at the Apollo Theater. Their spring benefit, benefiting showcasing Aretha Franklin and Michael Jackson. One heck of a show put on by the folks here. Also,
is it going to be on TV?
You know what? I don't know if they broadcast that, but I will definitely check on that. Also, the Ghetto Film School, which is but 10 years old, they actually provide opportunities in film work for up-and-coming folks from inner city. They honored Lee Daniels last night, and I presented an award there as well. And Omarosa kicked off her TV One reality show last night in New York as well. So it was a busy time last night.
Looking for love.
That's right. That's right. The ultimate merger. And some folks are already hearing from folks like, man, why they got this show? Understand, you never seen black people on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. It's as if black folks don't even date.
They get on there, Roland, but they're gone at that first episode.
it's like one person, but you've never seen an African American bachelor or bachelorette doing the picking.
Right.
So that show's coming up in the fall on TV One. So looking forward to the Donald Trump presents the ultimate merger.
Good for her. That's my new best friend.
Hey, work it.
Sorry,
do what you got to do.
I'm sorry.
Oh Lord. Tom, 30 years ago, we would often hear this phrase: America will be a majority-minority country. Folks sat there and they said, oh, that's 30 years off, and we would hear that. Well, now in 2010, we're actually there. And all of a sudden, right now in 7 states in America, under the age of 15, minorities, they outnumber whites in this country. And so I was talking to John Avalon, who has this book called Wing Nuts, and we were talking about all this craziness with the Tea Party and with all these other people making some of these outlandish comments. And what he said, and both of us came to the same conclusion, that we have the advantage right now of watching white victimhood begin to rise up and all of a sudden be created. All of a sudden, in the age of Obama, you have white folks in this country who are freaking out by saying, oh my God, we're losing our grip on this country. Just yesterday, Congressman Steve King, he laid out on G. Gordon Liddy's radio show that President Obama favors the black person. That when anything comes up, he favors the black person. Quote, it seems the president has an inclination to engage in these kinds of things. When he had an Irish cop and a black professor, who did he side with? He jumped to a conclusion without having heard the facts, and he ended up having to have a beer summit. That's Congressman Steve King, the same man who said terrorists would be dancing in the streets if Obama won. But you also have the patron saint of this white rage, and that is Glenn Beck. Now, you guys are going to love this one. Glenn Beck now is comparing himself to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. He even said, quote, when MLK had to face German shepherds, we have to face SEIU and leftist thugs. In fact, he even said to his listeners, you are the one that is receiving the mantle of Martin Luther King. What is happening, Sybil? They are trying to now grab the moral standing of the civil rights movement and now claim it as their own. So what is happening in August? Well, on August 28th, a date that we know so well as the day of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, also the same day that then Senator Barack Obama accepted the nomination for the Democratic presidency, Beck is going to have a rally on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial to, quote, reclaim the civil rights movement. What is happening? This is happening. And in fact, what he is trying to do is he continues to quote Dr. King in terms of, the content of our character fighting for our rights. But let me explain something to the Becks of the world, to all these white folks filled with rage. If you want to quote one line in his speech, I advise you to read the whole damn speech. Because I've never heard any of these folks who are so filled with rage deal with the fact that Dr. King was leading a poor people's campaign at the time of his death. I've never heard any of these people who now want to claim the civil rights movement as their own. I've never heard them talk to Reverend Joseph Lowry or Congressman John Lewis or Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth or all of those African Americans who were alive then, who were in the movement. I've never heard them embrace them. There are people who look like us who will say, well, Roland, you shouldn't give the Becks of the world more attention. We should ignore them. But I say, hell no. Do not ignore the people who want to use and pimp our movement for their benefit. I believe we must call them out at every turn and show them exactly what they are. And what they are, they're individuals who are freaking out because their world is changing. It's no longer going to be their world. In fact, Jay, there was a study done that said African Americans are more optimistic about the future and whites are less optimistic about the future. Maybe that's because white privilege will not be as great. Maybe that's because they recognize that you have to now share of that pie, that African Americans and Hispanics are also saying we don't simply want crumbs anymore. We now want a larger piece of the pie. In fact, let's take even half of the pie as well. We are going to see more of this over the next 10 or 15 years as white America looks up and realizes, wow, this country is truly changing, and they're doing everything they can to hold on to what they have, and we better be prepared for the backlash that is going to come back. We're seeing it now. It is going to get even crazier in the future. So when you hear more comments like King, when you hear Congressman Steve King, when you hear more white rage leaders like Glenn Beck, don't be surprised when you begin to hear more voices join in because they are afraid of what the future looks like.
Yeah, you're right, Roland. Good job.
Thank you very much, sir.
Very good.